Tonight is, I mean, just think of the things that we've talked about, right? It's earlier this week we were talking if you watch trailers or not watch trailers when you're getting excited for a movie to come out. This is one of those openers tonight for NC State where I feel like we're like intrigued by the director and the star actor, and now it's like, let's see if they put it all together. Right? Robert Anae kind of being the director of the offense, Brennan Armstrong, the new star. Maybe that's even it. It's like a Creed Rocky situation where Brennan Armstrong is Michael B. Jordan. It's like, we know Dave Doeren NC State. We've seen it, right? We're familiar with the franchise, but there's a new director and a new offensive star trying to reboost the IP, reboost the franchise. It's the debut of the Robert Anae era of offensive football at NC State, and he brought his quarterback with him to help introduce the offense. You see it in the NFL, right? Ron Rivera goes from the Panthers to the Commanders. What happened? Suddenly, like a third of the Commanders were former Panthers. Why? Because you depend on those players to introduce plays, play style, culture, knowledge of the playbook. It makes sense, right? I mean, it's not a completely out there strategy, but Brennan Armstrong is doing that for Robert Anae. He's here to be a quarterback for 1 year. I mean, that's an eligibility thing. Brennan Armstrong is here to work with Robert Anae, and that partnership has everyone so excited because last time they were together on the same sideline, he threw for 4,500 yards and led the ACC. That was at UVA. Now he's here for 1 year, but you hope his impact will be for a long time. Right? If you're an NC State fan, you hope that Brennan Armstrong is here for a year, but what he does this year impacts the next 10 years. And that starts with having success, and that starts with having success tonight against UCONN. I've talked with a lot of coaches in my career. Right? You interview them pre-game, post-game, middle of long seasons, middle of great seasons. And one thing I know, one of my favorite ideas is that success reinforces that coaches know what they're talking about. Right? When a new coach takes over in the summer and in training camp, I want you to run this drill. I want you to do this workout. I want you to get in your playbook this much. I want you to learn this, practice this. And everybody does it because you want to play. Right? And that guy gets to decide if you play or not, so they're in. But when you start having success, it starts reinforcing that he's having you do those things for a reason. Like I said, I've talked with a bunch of coaches. After a big win, particularly a big upset win, or the first big win when a coach takes over a program, they almost always say something along the lines of, I'm just glad this shows the players that if they buy in and listen to what we're asking them to do, it works.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. When a group of 5 team beats a Power 5 school, you'll hear one of those exact phrases, right? When a new coach takes over, the first big win they have over a rival, hey, I ask them to do a lot. I ask them to give up a lot of their free time to work out. I ask them to listen to me over their personal guru coaches. I ask them to do this and do that. And now that we've had some success, I get to look back at those players and say, see, I told you. If you buy in, if you listen, if you trust me, we can have some success with this thing. So Brennan Armstrong's success moving forward, that gives Robert Anae a lot of cachet in the program. Right? Hey, this guy, he bought in so much that he came with me to state.
Yeah, that's the thing. You start racking up a lot of yards and a lot of points early. It's like, oh, well, okay. All right, before you know, you start seeing guys a lot more pep in their step. Like, hey, I want some of this. Like, let me in on that.
And hey, Brennan, what'd you see? Why'd you go there? Hey, Brennan, you keep throwing this route. Why? How do you want me to run it? Hey, coach, let me pick your brain for a second, because it just continues to build up that reinforcement of what I'm doing, what I know, what I'm bringing to you works. Now, you want to know the dirty little secret is the opposite of that is true too. Even if it's subconscious, right? I'm not saying players, if you go 4 weeks where the offense isn't working in their brains, like consciously they're going to be thinking, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going to do whatever the heck I want. That won't be like a literal thought. That won't be in their internal monologue, but there won't be as much reinforcement. Right, you'll be doing it trying to get on the field. You'll be doing that trying to get out of running, but you won't be doing it with the same fervor and I don't know what is excitement and enthusiasm.
You'll have doubts.
Exactly, and to be honest with you, it kind of makes sense. Offensive coordinator comes in, it revamps the offense, changes this, changes that. If you get worse. or you're not having a tremendous amount of success, I'm not going to call you dumb for going, hey, we should reconsider this.
I ran into that as a coach when I was coaching lacrosse full time. When I took a job at a different school and I brought in kind of a different style of offense, offensive philosophy. Took an offense that was really heavy on set plays and an offense that was a little bit more free flowing. So for some people, it was a really hard adjustment because they're like everything used to run through them. So it took a little bit, and I told him, I said, look, you stick with this, you're going to have way more goals and assists than you've ever had in your career. And sure enough, it was like 4 or 5 games left in the season. They already passed their individual totals. I was like, I told you. Sometimes it just takes a little bit to adjust. And
now I'm not as familiar with, how many games do you play in lacrosse?
Yeah, it's 16, 17.
Okay, so it's not a ton more than football. And I would say from my experience as a football player, if it takes 4 or 5 games to take root, your season could be donezo by then, right? Like one loss and
very different.
One poorly placed loss on your football schedule, and suddenly all your goals change. So I don't even think they have that much time, right? I think it's you can struggle against UConn as long as you win, and then by about halfway through next week, the offense better look good, or else the doubts will be serious. So Robert Anae, Brennan Armstrong, hit the ground running. Elon and Wake's also tonight. I feel like Wake is just putting some chips in the middle. It feels like they're going further in than they normally do. They spent a bunch on their facilities. They've done some things that feel a bit more intentional. They've been good for a long time, kind of solid for a long time. They've been stable for a long time. Dave Clawson's been around now for a decent amount of time. One of my favorite stats, and I looked this up today, since 2000, so this century, Wake Forest has had 8 players lead them in passing yards over a season. That's ridiculous. That's over 20 years. They've had 8 players lead them in passing yards. By comparison, North Carolina's had 14. So their stability, their desire by players to stay around, Wake's got something going there. But it feels like they're going to see if they can level up, right? That's where all that investment's coming from. That's where some of the excitement's coming from. As a program, they're going to see if they can, and obviously that starts with Elon tonight, which is always, starting with an FCS school is kind of exactly what a lot of coaches want.